So it's just like I don't know them, so I don't be getting what's be going on. I don't know them. Yeah.
Well, you've never met him in person. Have the two of you actually talked on the phone?
Never talked.
Yungeen Ace just dropped a bombshell, claiming he knows Julio's last words. And what he said? It's got everybody in shock. Julio didn't go out quiet, not even close. And now, Ace's reveal is stirring the pot all over again. Julio's people are not feeling it. They out here telling everybody to chill. The streets of Jacksonville are heating up again. Let's break it down.
I'm like, bro, you gotta stop the wave, bro. You know, they love y'all here. Like, stop the wave, real shit.
It's been months since Julio passed, but now that clip of Yungeen Ace talking on IG Live is making waves. In it, Ace speaks on their last convo.
Yeah, like, you know, I fuck with your real shit, stop the wave. So, you know what I'm saying? To all the kids, y'all stay out the streets.
And what came out of his mouth? Nobody saw it coming. There was no hate, no beef, just raw emotion, real talk. A side of both of them the streets never got to see before. And get this, Ace said he straight up told Julio he loved him. After all that, the disses, the shootouts, the non-stop drama on social media, yup, he said, I told him I loved him. And he warned him to stay safe too. But not everyone's buying this peaceful narrative. Folks think Ace might have been trolling. During that same live, Ace said, it's so funny because we were cool and shit. He really tried to convince people they squashed the beef. But this ain't just about Julio anymore. Ace is flipping the script, using this tragic moment to talk to the young crowd watching. His message? Stay out the streets. Leave the violence alone. Don't let your ego or need for clout land you in a casket or behind bars. Now here's the wild part.
Probably happen sooner than later. You never know what God got planned, you know? I told him that a couple times, you know? We be talking time to time, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you never know what can happen. You know, like, it ain't no, you know what I'm saying? We want to kill each other. Nah, we just mutual, you know?
How did these two go from full-on enemies throwing shots in music to having heart-to-hearts where one's telling the other, I love you and stay safe? According to Ace, they'd been secretly messaging on social media and even chopping it up on Clubhouse, all while keeping up the fake beef in public for fans and the clout chase. And what Julio said in past interviews, now that we know this, it hits different. All that behind-the-scenes talk paints a whole new picture of their so-called rivalry. When folks asked if Julio would ever squash the beef with Ace, he said they were just mutual. That's a huge shift from all the hate they used to throw at each other. But that moment of peace, it starts sounding fake real quick once you remember who got locked up for Julio's murder. Still, let's clear one thing up. Sheriff T.K. Waters made it official at a press conference. There is no investigation into Yungeen Ace right now. That means even if some dudes tied to Ace's circle got involved, Ace himself wasn't calling shots, planning anything, or even knew it was about to go down. But the part that really hit people in the chest? When Ace talked about how he warned Julio multiple times. He said he tried to get through to him, telling him the streets were getting too dangerous. You could hear it in his voice, the regret, the pain. Like he really wanted to save him but couldn't. Like he cared more than anybody thought. Then again, not everyone's buying it. A lot of folks still think Ace is putting on a show. So let's rewind and look at how this whole crazy saga even started, because there are people out here who believe their so-called bond was never real to begin with.
The shooters are members of or affiliated with rival gangs of Jones that go by ATK and 1200.
The story of Yungeen Ace and Julio Foolio is deep, written in blood, fueled by pain, and ended with a twist no one saw coming. The whole hip-hop scene felt the shockwaves when the dust finally settled. Ace, real name Kia Bullard, was knee-deep in the streets, running with a crew called ATK. And let's keep it real, that stands for Ace's Top Killers. With a name like that, you already know they weren't just posing for the gram. These were real dudes in real beef. Now on the other side, you had Julio, aka Charles Andrew Jones II. He was repping KTA, short for Kill Them All. Yeah, that name alone tells you this wasn't just some friendly rap rivalry. This was the kind of smoke that doesn't blow over. And when two cliques like that share the same city, beefing over respect, turf, and reputation, things will pop off. And they did. Heavy. It really got ugly in 2017. That's when everything took a sharp turn. Julio's cousin, Zion Malik Brown, was murdered, and a lot of people say that was the spark that lit the fuse on what became known as the Jacksonville Gang War. When someone's family gets hit, that's when it stops being about just rap or status. That's when it becomes personal, a street code thing. Revenge, pride, legacy. Julio wasn't the type to sit back and do nothing, and neither were the people in his circle. That set everything in motion. When your own blood gets taken out, you don't go running to the cops hoping for justice. That ain't how the streets move. And it sure ain't how young dudes who've been let down by the system their whole lives handle business. Out here, the code is simple. Blood for blood. You take one of mine, I gotta get one of yours. Nobody gets a pass after crossing that line. But this story, it gets way more tragic than people realize. After Zion got killed, retaliation came quick and hard. In June 2018, Ace got hit 8 times, 8 shots to his body. Think about that. They weren't trying to scare him. They were trying to erase him. That wasn't no warning. That was a straight-up attempt to wipe him off this earth. Only reason Ace survived? Because fate, or something bigger, had other plans for him. But even though Ace made it through those bullets, not everybody did. His brother, Trayvon Bullard, and 2 of their close people didn't make it out that night. They died on the spot. Now, you had both sides grieving. Both sides had lost family. Both sides felt like they had to keep pushing. Like stopping meant disrespecting the ones they lost. And once it gets that deep, ain't nobody backing down without someone else paying the price. What pushed this whole thing into madness was how it played out in public. This wasn't just some local beef in Jacksonville. It went global thanks to social media and rap tracks. It became a full-on show for people who didn't even know these dudes but couldn't look away from the chaos. Julio? He went all in, posting disrespectful stuff online, even mocking the dead, saying wild stuff that had people furious, and he wasn't hiding. He was pouring gasoline on a fire that was already way out of control. And Ace? He wasn't staying silent, 'cause silence in the streets, that's seen as weakness. And weakness? That'll get you smoked out here.
Hey, on everything I love, bro. On the dead homies, bro. I put it on everything on my soul, on my kids, man. I'm the one that smacked Foolio that night when he got dropped at his birthday celebration, bro.
Things hit a whole new level when Ace dropped the infamous diss track Who I Smoke in March 2021. He teamed up with Spina Benz, Wappa Wit Da Choppa, and Fast Money Goon. And what they did? Man, it was cold. They took Vanessa Carlton's soft pop hit 1,000 Miles and flipped it into a murder anthem, straight up rapping about who they smoked, dropping names of the dead like it was just another bar. It wasn't just a diss, it was a statement. They turned death into music and made the whole beef into viral entertainment. People were bumping it like it was a club banger, not realizing it was drenched in real blood and real pain. Julio clapped back quick, dropping his own diss over Fantasia's When I See You. Now both sides were in full-blown rap warfare. But this wasn't some fake WWE type drama for clicks. This was real life, spilling straight into the booth. They were turning grief into profit, turning pain into tracks. And behind every line, there was a real consequence waiting. These weren't just songs. They were threats. They were messages. And they were fueling real violence in the streets. 7 young black men lost their lives in this war. 7 sons who'll never walk back through their mama's front door. 7 homies who won't be laughing at the next cookout. 7 voices silenced before they even got the chance to grow into something bigger than the struggle they were born into. Meanwhile, Julio kept getting pulled into the violence like it was chasing him. Like no matter how far he ran or how big his music got, trouble stayed stuck to him like a shadow. But let's be real, this was never just about two rappers talking tough in the booth. This was deeper than music. This was about generations of young black men caught in a cycle that's been spinning way before they ever picked up a mic. This is what happens when you mix poverty, broken schools, zero opportunity, and a system built to forget about certain neighborhoods. When survival means more than actually living. These were kids forced to grow up fast. They learned to load guns before they learned to open up about their pain. They found fame, found money, but couldn't escape the trauma that built them. And yet, even in all that darkness, there were flashes of something real, something human. That's the part folks don't always see, but we'll get into that in a second. First, we gotta talk about how Foolio's life came to a tragic end on June 23rd, 2024, and how that moment shook the streets, forced Ace to break his silence, and brought some hidden truths to the surface that had people looking at their whole beef different. Now here's the moment everything changed. June 23rd was supposed to be a celebration. Foolio was turning 26, a major milestone for someone who lived every day with a target on his back. Against all odds, he made it to another birthday. And like any young man who's seen too much pain, too many funerals, too much street chaos, he just wanted to party, have fun, and enjoy the life he fought so hard to keep. But in the streets, that kind of joy don't come easy. When you're someone like Foolio, with enemies watching your every move, just waiting for a slip-up, a birthday bash can flip into a memorial in seconds. What was supposed to be a night of good vibes turned into something way darker. It all started off chill, just a birthday vibe at an Airbnb in Tampa. Foolio had pulled up with his crew, his day ones, the folks who'd stuck by him through every high and low. Tampa was supposed to be a safe zone, neutral ground, a place where he could finally let his guard down, just for a minute. Not as Foolio, the rapper with beef in every direction, but as Charles Jones, a young man just trying to celebrate turning 26. They ended up switching locations, moving over to a home 2 suites hotel near the University of South Florida. Probably felt like a small change, no big deal. Just a quick pivot in the birthday plans. But when you're somebody like Foolio, with real beef, a history of gunshots, and ops watching your every move, switching spots at the last minute, that's risky as hell. In this life, every change of location is a gamble. It opens the door for enemies to move in silence and adjust their plans. And to make things worse, Foolio had been posting all day on Instagram, showing love, showing the party, showing too much. And in this digital world, that's like dropping a live pin on your location. Every post, every story, every little geotag becomes a map for people who might want to do you harm. It's not just sharing, it's exposing. And when you're young, famous, and feel untouchable, especially on your birthday, you don't always think twice. You're surrounded by love, by your people, by energy. You feel on top of the world until it flips on you. Then came the nightmare. At around 4:40 a.m. on June 23rd, 2024, things took a deadly turn. Foolio was ambushed in that hotel parking lot, not by one dude acting wild, but by multiple gunmen. This was no accident, no wrong place, wrong time situation, no robbery gone left. Nah, this was set up, straight calculated. Someone planned this. They knew where he'd be, when he'd be there, and how to catch him slipping. This wasn't random. This was personal. A hit that felt like it was crafted to send a loud message. Not just to Foolio's crew, but to everyone back in Jacksonville and beyond. This hit wasn't sloppy. It was surgical. The shooters pulled up with serious firepower. A handgun loaded with an extended mag that let off over 30 shots, and 2 rifles fitted with brass catchers. And if you don't know, brass catchers are used to collect shell casings, so there's no evidence left behind at the scene. That means these dudes weren't just trying to kill, they came ready to vanish without a trace. This wasn't emotional. This wasn't wild rage. This was cold-blooded strategy. They thought this out. They came loaded up, equipped like they were on a mission. Not just to end Julio's life, but to walk away clean. 5 people were involved in this ambush. Out of those 5, 3 let off shots. Now pause and picture that. 5 grown people, locked in, working together to hunt down one man on his birthday. That's not beef. That's a coordinated takedown. Julio didn't stand a chance. Not against that kind of heat, not with that level of planning. They weren't playing, they were executing a blueprint. And once the dust settled, the investigation pulled back the curtain on just how deep this whole thing ran. Tampa PD, with help from other agencies, got to work, tapping into surveillance footage, license plate readers, and phone records. All that tech exposed what the killers tried to hide. Even with the brass catchers and sneaky moves, they left a digital footprint. And what cops found? It was chilling. Turns out, the shooters had been tracking Julio since he left the first Airbnb spot. When he moved locations to that hotel, they followed. This wasn't luck. This wasn't random. This was surveillance-level stalking. They watched his moves, adjusted their timing, and made sure they were ready when the moment came. They were patient. They were prepared. They had the resources. And they didn't blink. Eventually, 5 suspects got hit with charges tied to Julio's murder. Isaiah Jermaine Chance, 21. Alicia Latoya Andrews, 21. Sean Andre Gathright, 18. Rashad Trayvon Murphy, 30. Davian Shar Murphy, 27. This wasn't no one-man job, and this crew wasn't just some random crash-out squad. Their ages, ranging from 18 to 30, show it was a mix of young hitters and seasoned vets. A full-on operation. These weren't rookies. They knew exactly what they were doing. All 5 are facing first-degree premeditated murder and conspiracy to commit murder, both with firearms. We're talking life in prison if convicted. No parole, no second chances. But here's where it gets even messier. The motive behind the hit? It ties right back to the deep, bloody history between Julio's crew, the 6-block KTA, and their rivals from ATK and 1200. This wasn't random. This was about gang ties, street code, and old wounds that never healed. It was the same deadly beef that had dragged on for years. The same street war that had already taken lives and wrecked families. The same cycle of revenge everyone knew would keep spinning, unless somebody broke it. But what happened right after Julio's death? That's what pushed everything over the edge. The streets were already on fire, but this lit the whole block up. People started pointing fingers. All eyes turned to Ace. Folks started whispering, then shouting, saying he had to be involved. The way things played out felt too perfect, too timed, too personal. The conspiracy theories were wild and growing by the minute. But then, out of nowhere, the whole story flipped. Exactly 1 month after Julio's death, with the rumors getting out of control, Yungeen Ace hopped on Instagram Live on July 21st, 2024, and dropped some real truth that nobody saw coming. What he said that night had the streets shook. He didn't duck. He didn't troll. He spoke from the heart. He denied having anything to do with Julio's murder. And even more shocking, he showed love, real grief. His words were raw. Sad. I ain't gonna lie, bruh. Leave the streets alone, playa. I don't condone like that. And you could hear the pain in his voice. It wasn't some fake performance for likes. He was hurt. And whatever beef they had in public, behind the scenes, it was different. Ace wasn't dancing on Julio's grave. He was mourning the loss. That IG live turned the narrative upside down. He used the moment to speak to the youth, warning them about the same streets that almost took him out too, telling them to choose another path before it's too late. No flexing, no op talk, just truth. And that's where we leave it, for now. What do you think? Was Ace being real? Or was it just another move in a never-ending game of smoke and mirrors? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real talk and deep dives like this. Hit that bell so you don't miss what's next. and we'll catch you on the next one.